Welcome everyone to the Mooresville Town Council meeting. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an image? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God, as we gather this evening, again, this council asks for your strength, courage, and wisdom. And we thank you for the privilege that it is to have this town to serve and all of the great people in it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Call to order the January 17th meeting of the Mooresville Town Council. Gentlemen have had a chance to read the minutes from our previous meeting. I need a motion to either approve or amend the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion been made. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Josh Gregg, 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the unfinished business. Is the event coordinator, Regina Shelby. Regina came to us 3 meetings ago with a wonderful idea of an event coordinator for the town of Mooresville.
I don't have a whole lot to say tonight, other than thank you to everyone that took the time to meet with me and chat with me, ask questions. You are fine. I think I wore the rest of them out, so it's okay. I did have a nice meeting with Tom last week, and I think we kind of wanted to discuss that a little bit. I am taking your advice and moving forward in planning events until this can move on further into maybe a budgeting area for the town. I have 2 events scheduled in planning right now. February 17th, I'm planning a Littles Valentine's Dance that I'm going to host at 5 East. And then I'm also working on an event for Bicentennial Park for St. Patrick's Day.
Council, I had met with Nina, and I said several times, I hope you remember, that I'm 1/5 of the board. But in reviewing everything that she had put together, it's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea. The problem is the funding of it.
Right.
And I explained to her that a lot of the events that we would normally have the downtown merchants do or whomever, we would also say, hey, and you need to add to that an umbrella insurance policy above and beyond what we already have. Now, we're not any better than anyone else, so we would probably have to do similar things. I hadn't had a chance to go through line item by line item with our insurance carrier and say how much would this actually cost us. I did explain to her that this is something that we could address during budget times, and possibly look for a way to do it within one of our existing departments. But I looked her square in the eye and I said, I'm not a definite no, but I am a definite no at this time.
Right.
I think that it could be refined and honed to make it work. But I also asked her, and I think she's planning on doing a little bit of research on that, how Franklin is doing it with their nonprofit. They kind of keep it separate, and I see that as something that I'd like to have more information on. Told her don't give up on Mooresville, and apparently she hasn't.
I have not, and I will not.
Are there comments from the council?
So you're okay with just moving forward, doing events, and then approaching us?
Yeah.
Are you going to have her report events to us like she did tonight?
No,
Or
I don't think we could ever stop her.
if you have
I'm
need
all
a
up in
permit,
everybody's business.
if you need a permit, you'd be here anyway. But
That's correct.
like if it's just the park only, you wouldn't need a street permit,
But I'd still like to keep you guys informed as to what I'm doing and what's
So
going on.
you're okay with moving forward that way and
Yeah, for now.
visiting it in a few months?
Just remember that I'm not going to go away, and I'm going to be back up here again, rooting for the same game. So, yep.
But you are dedicated enough to see it through, that's great.
I hope so. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody good?
If she's good with that, then I have no objections to that route if that's how we're going to go.
Yeah, and like Tom said, I'm going to do some more research. I have talked to some of the executives for the Discover Downtown Franklin, and I'm getting a better idea of how that runs. It's my understanding that the town of Franklin supports that by giving them an office in their town facilities and then also making a donation to the nonprofit every year. So,
Josh?
We talked and
yeah,
keep going, keep at it.
I shall try. I think I'm going to take this time to not only do the events, but prove to you guys that it can be done the right way. All right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Under new business, we have town council health insurance. And Shane, I believe you asked for that to be on the agenda. Did you have anything you wanted to say? And I know Jewel can address some of that also.
Okay, just that we received a letter, basically demanding a public discussion about, town council insurance. So I wanted to put it on here for informational purposes only.
Yeah, and so, we did receive a public records request. We reviewed that public records request and we'll provide the information that is disclosable under Indiana law. That information, some of the information that is requested is just not disclosable. We have HIPAA concerns. We also have issues where we don't have that documentation. And so, it is what it is. I know that there have been questions regarding why the town council has health insurance as opposed to some other entities that are, quote, part-time. I think it's important to understand and realize that there's a difference between a part-time employee and an elected official of a municipality. There are clear distinctions with both recognition under Indiana statutes and the FLSA and the Department of Labor standards regarding those. And so they are treated differently. When you talk about a town, there are cities that I represent where the council has insurance. Those cities, that council is simply the fiscal and legislative body. When you talk about a town entity, you're talking about a council that is the fiscal, the legislative, and the executive. That you guys are responsible for the rules, the regulations, and the running of the town. And so, to a certain extent, there's more weight placed upon a town council as opposed to a city council. The cities have mayors who are the executive and run the city itself. So there are a lot of distinctions that come through. I'm happy to talk to anybody who would have any questions regarding that. But the information that is disclosable will be disclosed and nothing more. And just a clear understanding of decision-making processes through a town and the difference between part-time employees and elected officials.
There's also information on Indiana Gateway, like totals and things too,
Correct.
that's available to the public.
Right. So generally speaking, when you talk about employees, the total compensation is reported out there, but you don't have the line item benefits and individual expenditures. So.
Yeah, and I provided a letter to you from the public access counselor on the same issue.
Yes.
And he basically confirmed what you're just now saying as well.
Well, we make our determinations based upon the past rulings of the public access counselor, and if there's determination out there that certain pieces of information needed to be disclosed under his guidance and through case law, then we would be disclosing that. But that is not the case here.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Shane?
No.
Josh? Greg? No. We're going to move on then. Next item on the agenda is board appointments. You received a list of the appointments that were expiring or set to expire at the end of last year. All of our boards serve as members of the board until they are either reappointed or replaced. Our first board that we have on the list is our Board of Zoning Appeals. I think you're going to see this as becoming with the loss of our non-jurisdictional zoning areas. I think you're going to see the BZA being a little more busy as things concentrate here in the town of Mooresville. We had two appointments that were set to expire or that did expire. They were Neil Ullman and Jennifer Metter. Jennifer has just served 2 years, so it may be a little confusing. It is a 4-year appointment, but she was serving out the term of a member that had left. Both of these are 4-year appointments. These are non-planning commission members, and these are set to be appointed by the executive. That would be me. I spoke to Neil earlier late last year. He was very willing to continue to serve in this position. I talked to Jennifer this past week, and she also expressed interest in serving on this board. So those two will be reappointed for a 4-year term, and that is an executive appointment. Our next was our planning commission. Planning commission, right now we do have a member that serves on the planning commission that doesn't fit the description as accurately as it could be. And that would be Mark Taylor. Mark Taylor currently serves as a town council appointment to the planning commission, however, serves as a town official or town employee. Mark is no longer assisting us as a town employee with the crossing guard, unless he wants to start back. It's supposed to be warm all week. So in order to do that, currently, Josh Brown serves on that board as an executive appointment, and he fits the bill of being a town employee. We can swap those. The first thing that we would do is I can reappoint Mark as an executive appointment to fulfill the term set out from Josh. You would serve until December 31st, 2025. The town employees serve on an annual basis. There was a little question there on whether that was an annual or a 4-year, and I think the IC code can be interpreted both times. I think we always just try to give the employees an out if they want it. Is that acceptable with the council?
I have no issues with it.
The first thing I want to do is remove Josh from the planning commission as the executive appointment, and then I'm going to appoint Mark Taylor to the balance of that term. Is that acceptable to you, Mark? We talked about it a little bit. Now we have 3 appointments to the planning commission, and they are town employees. Currently, they are J.D. Robinson and Tammy Van Hook. Tammy also serves as the secretary of the planning commission and takes the minutes of that meeting. Both of those begged me. They wanted to stay on here. I started getting phone calls back in January last year. Make sure you reappoint me. Make sure you reappoint me. So those two, and then if we want to add Josh back in there as a town employee or official, we can do that. We need to do those one at a time.
I would do them individually.
We would need to do those one at a time, legal counsel says. So I need a motion to appoint any one of those 3 or a different town employee should you choose fit.
I'll make a motion to appoint Josh Brown to the planning commission.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Is Shane Gregg, 5-0, and that is for Josh to serve. I need another motion.
I'd make a motion to put Tammy Van Hook on the planning commission, or to retain her on the planning commission, I guess would be a better word.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Shane Gregg, 5-0. That was for Tammy Van Hook. One more motion.
I'll make a motion to reappoint J.D. Robinson to the planning commission.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. And that was Shane, Josh, and that was 5-0. That was for JD. Mark Taylor was an executive appointment to it. Next, we have the Park Board. We have two vacancies on the Park Board. We have Dave Pearson, who has served on the Park Board since, I think, just before Samuel Moore dedicated the Old Town Park to the town. Probably one of the few people here in town that has always had the town's best interests at heart, whether he served on a council, a commission, a board. Probably one of the best guys for the town of Mooresville that we've ever seen. He chose to no longer be reappointed. I think he was just ready to slow down a little bit and ride his bike. Next one was Brian Weiser. Brian moved out of the taxing district. That vacancy has been open for some time. We have struggled to find the park board is a partisan board. We do appoint two members that are of one party and no more than two members of a given party, I think is the way it's worded. The David Pearson is currently a Republican term or Republican affiliation. That would end in 4 years. So that would end. Oh, next appointment, okay. So it would be a 4-year, it would be from January of 2023 as a 4-year term. We received several applications. I was excited that we saw one that was a familiar face that has a lot of park experience with Brent Callahan. I think that would be someone that could sit on that board and know what both sides of the mahogany looks like. There were other members. I need a motion from the council to appoint a Republican-affiliated member to the council, or to the board.
Motion to appoint Brett Callahan to the board.
Motion,
Second. I'll second.
motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, Greg Shane, 5-0. Work. In looking at the applications that were submitted, the only application that we had, I say that, small town, was a member of the audience was Danny Lundy. He has applied with affiliations to the Libertarian Party. This office or this board appointment has been vacant for over a year now, trying to find someone. He has willingly applied for the position. Any comments or questions?
I'll just say I'll recuse myself from that vote because he's announced his candidacy and he's running for my seat on the council, so I will just recuse myself from a vote either way.
Okay, so that means from a motion either way either, right? So do I have a motion?
Motion to appoint Danny Lundy to the park board.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain. Yeah, thanks.
Greg Josh. 1. Danny Lundy. Next, we have the Police Commission. Police Commission is also a bipartisan board. Currently, we have Ernest or Ernie Wilson, whose term expired on December 31st. These are 3-year terms. They were originally set up 1, 2, and 3, and then went to 3-year terms. If he's reappointed, he would serve until December of 25, December 31st of 25. Ernie reached out to Jeff. Jeff brought us all a letter that Ernie had sent in that said he was willing, able, and desired to continue to serve. Do you have any comments on that, Jeff? I know that.
No, I have none.
Need a motion?
Motion for Ernie Wilson to be reappointed to the Police Commission.
Motion been made. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Jeff Shane, 5-0. Ernie Wilson. Next board is our redevelopment board. Another odd configuration of the board. It is a 5-member board. It is technically a 6-member board. There's 5 members that are appointed by the town of Mooresville, 3 by the executive officer, and 2 by the town council. The school board does appoint or recommend, nominate a non-voting member of the redevelopment board, and then the executive officer would approve of that. And we have not, to the best of my knowledge, received anything from the school board at this time. Jake Allen currently serves that. He does an outstanding job, and I hope that the school board would send that back or send that with him. Currently, we have Ryan Taylor, Brian Culp, Dana Heinrich. Sorry if I messed that up. Sorry about that. Aaron Pipkin. Dustin Stanley has moved out of the taxing district. I need from the council 2 members to be appointed by the council. I have spoken to all 4 of the remaining members. All 4 of them are very interested in serving again. I think we've turned the corner. We see a heck of a direction here that the redevelopment board's going with. We see the fruition of all the years of hard work. We've had redevelopment boards that have got kicked and beat up and misinformation, wrong information, and what we've done is we've weathered the storm, and we see the possibilities of doing a lot of good things within the town of Mooresville. I had spoke to each one of them. They are willing to serve. I will need a motion one at a time for any one of those 4.
I'll make a motion now. Aaron Pipkin.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Josh Gregg, 5-0. That was for Aaron Pipkin. I need another motion.
Move to appoint Dana Heinrich to the RDC.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Greg, Josh, 5-0. The next 3 are council appointments. Or executive appointments, sorry. Good catch. I spoke to each one of you individually about Brian because of him being on 2 different boards. State Board of Accounts, the state itself, all legal counsel says that is not a conflict of interest in any way. I went into it pretty headstrong that I was not satisfied with that appointment. After speaking to him, several members of the board, and I think Brian Culp is a fantastic appointment to the redevelopment board, and I am reappointing him for another year. Live and learn. The next one is Ryan Taylor. Ryan expressed interest. He's seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. He's seeing that there are good things that can be done. A redevelopment board throughout the state of Indiana is always kind of the whipping post for for the members, and I hate that. But I am reappointing Ryan Taylor. The next one is Dustin Stanley's position. Dustin did an absolutely great job with that. Shane, you'd reached out and said that you wanted to serve on this board. You even sent in your application. I called and checked some of your references. They weren't real strong on this.
Yeah. Thanks.
The last year I did ask you to sit on the planning commission, and you said,
My wife.
my wife said no.
You can ask her.
I'm not asking her.
Okay. Okay.
Board takes up a lot of time. It is, it's a tough board to be on. You've expressed interest to do it. I'm appointing you to that board. We have a library board appointment. Library board is another one of those odd ducks. We get one appointment to it. That person does not have to live within our taxing district. They just have to live in the library's taxing district. I think the librarian had sent in a few names, but I think only one of those sent in an application. I think we're all very well aware of Ryan, and Ryan's served on many boards throughout the town and township and county. Why he wants to do this is beyond me, other than he wants people to be able to read books. I need a motion to appoint him to that board, should we choose to.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ryan Goodwin to the library board.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same Jeff, 5-0. Call the librarian and tell her we have a library board member. The next board is the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. Can I serve on this temporary? I've had interest in this from several very qualified people. They haven't been able to get everything in. It was as late as this morning that one of them spoke to me. I would like consent of the council to serve on that committee just until we get someone in here that they can go through the process and have everything lined out for us. I think the Economic Development Corporation, they make some pretty strong decisions here. I think we need someone that's very business-minded that can come in here and take care of this. I will serve on a temporary basis if the council approves of that.
Are you talking about the executive?
Yes.
The appointment to the executive board of the?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion for that, or?
I would suggest that, I mean, while it's an executive appointment, I think in this situation, since Tom is the executive, that it makes more sense to have the council consent to it through a motion.
Motion to appoint Tom as a temporary.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain. That was Greg Shane, 401. Thank you, gentlemen. We will get back on that. The MPO, I know that I know that we all had a little bit of their method of operation explained to us. I would like council's permission, or I would like the council to go ahead and reappoint Shane and Dave to that. If you go, you go. If you don't, you don't. But I know the question's been made, can we drop out of it? Because we are in an urbanized area, we are a member of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I need a motion in that.
Motion to appoint Shane and Dave.
Individually.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Motion to appoint, Shane to the Metropolitan Board.
Motion been made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Greg, Josh, 5-0. Motion for Dave?
To appoint Dave to the Metropolitan Board.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a appointment to the Indy Aerovision. I need to make sure that that is still even a active board, and we will come back to that. It was I think it was a board that was created, or a position that was created just to get us to shut up because we were complaining about the loud planes over the years. And I think they said, hey, we'll give you a non-voting position and you can come up here and listen to us tell you no, personally. Next item on the agenda is the street banners, and I have Rhonda Beck. Sorry you had to sit through all
That's
that.
okay, no problem. It's interesting to hear. Thank you for having me, and good evening. My name is Rhonda Beck, and I'm with the Wapakee Way Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. We're in Hendricks County. And I also have Ann Young. She's the regent of the 10 o'clock line here in Morgan County, the chapter. And I serve at the local, the state, and the national level, but my favorite job is being state chair for DAR Service to Veterans, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. For those of you that aren't familiar with DAR, I just want to give you a little brief infomercial to tell you what we're about and that we've been around for a while. We're the oldest women's organization in the country, founded in 1890 on the missions of patriotism, historic preservation, and education. There's been over 1 million women gone through that, been approved for our organization since that 132 years. Currently, we have about 190,000 members in 3,000 chapters across the country and overseas, with 5,000 of those daughters being here in Indiana and 83 chapters. Daughters of the American Revolution volunteer millions of hours annually in their communities. It's a nonprofit organization. And we give back anything that we do earn. We give back into the communities in which we live and work through veterans programs, active military, educational programs in the school, conservation, literacy, and a plethora of several other committees. But I was invited here tonight to speak about the military banner program. I'm the coordinator for that, and Wapakee Way Chapter started this program. Started working on it in 2019, targeted the 4 largest communities in Hendricks County, which are Avon, Brownsburg, Danville, and Plainfield, as kind of as a test pilot. They all approved it. We started out there. Banners went up in 2020, May of 2020, with 107 banners. And we put them up for May to May. We chose May because it's Military Month, it's Military Spouse Month, it's Memorial Day. So that seemed like a good time to do that. It just exploded. The program, I had no idea that the chapter was just thrilled to death because the banners spoke for themselves. It was an overwhelmingly response from the community and the town leaders. We had a waiting list of over 200 for the next year going in, where we added 8. We had 8 towns in 2021. In 2022, we expanded to 12 communities with over almost 300 banners across 4 counties. I've also helped chapters throughout the state to bring this program to their community, which they have been added, and now in 2023 we're bringing on more chapters. Had calls from Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Kentucky, Ohio, so it's a very, very popular program. The beauty of it is that DAR does all the work. Oh, and I almost forgot here. I wanted to tell you just a little thing. You may be the home of the designer of the state flag, but DAR sponsored that contest, and Paul Hadley's relative is right here, Brenda Hunt. I just looked up and saw the flag and reminded me of that.
Did they ever pay the full prize money for that?
I'm sure we did. We probably have the record somewhere, don't we? But anyway, I just looked up and saw that. But anyway, the beauty of this program is that DAR does all of the work for it. I designed the banner so that's already taken care of, so we're not paying anyone to do that. We work with a printer. We use D&E right now out of Brownsburg. They have a history, a strong background in banners throughout the communities. We try to get the banners to be consistent all across the state if it's a DAR project. And I brought one from the first year. This is the quality of the banner, and this is after hanging from 1 year. So you can see after 1 year, the wind, the rain, everything, it's still very sturdy. That's my dad. He was our poster child. And then the design changes every year so that the banners don't get stagnant. Sometimes towns have a banner and people don't even notice them anymore after hanging up for so long. This was the banner design for the second year. And then I don't have one for this year because they're currently up. This is the design that will be for 2023. I'll pass that around. But DAR will, they market the banners. They take all the orders for the banners. We have a consent form that they must sign that they agree that we can use the photo and they're not going to be compensated for it because if it's on TV, on Facebook, in the newspaper, people come out and take pictures of it and we have no control over that. Channel 59 has filmed it 4 times in these past 2.5 years. We just won the 2022 as a co-recipient with Morgan County Museum for the outstanding organization for an event or project for the banners. When we coordinate picking up all the pictures, editing the pictures, working on the pictures, getting them to the printer, when the banners are complete, the chapter picks them up, delivers them to the towns. When they're taken down, then the chapter picks them up and distributes them and the photos back to the participants. The only thing we ask that the town do is have the brackets, which you do, and to in-kind services as far as mounting them and then removing them. We did have one town come on late, which I don't think we could do your town if it was approved for May. Because of the work involved in it. We do have another town that we work with that does July. With this situation, 10 o'clock line is the home chapter here. They don't meet again until March. Some of the chapters take a few months off in the winter. Ours is one of them. But the first initial step in this whole process is getting approval. So I wanted to come and present to you, and if you did approve it, if they voted not to do it, then our chapter would do that for you. But if they vote to do it, then as coordinator, I would work with them every step of the way to make sure the process. And the nice thing about that is, in 4 years, I've learned some things about working out the kinks and the obstacles and so forth. But again, the banners do speak for themselves. It's a win-win situation for everybody. It is a fundraiser for us. And as I said, we put the money right back into the community. One of the things with these banners is that it honors veterans, living or deceased, and active military. So in the communities that we've gone into, it's building a database of veterans for programs that we have to bring them in and honor that maybe they're not being recognized for or being underserved in communities. So we've had an outreach of that for our military. So it helps us. It brings honor to your area residents that served in the armed forces. The families, this program is one of the best I've ever worked on. I've worked on a lot. You meet not only the veterans in some cases, but the families and what that means to them and the family, the stories that you hear. And then it brings, the town is getting a beautiful banner at no cost. So, but it does bring a lot of recognition to your town. It brings a lot of traffic down there. The we try to keep them reasonable, and depending on who would do it, if they would use our printer or find another printer, we sell ours for $120. They have gone up about $5 a year because of printing cost. But we do try to keep them reasonable. When I started the research, some of the towns were selling them for $350, $250, $400. There were some communities that had one picture on one side and one picture on another. These are the same military personnel on the same side. The banner comes down and goes back to the participant, and it's a very nice keepsake. So the problem was they're selling a banner for $400. They're actually getting $800, and then who gets that banner? It's not about the money, it's about the honor that it brings to those who serve. So we'd like to keep our costs low, and it's been worked out very favorable for us because families buy multiple banners. We have one family buy 9. A lot of families will buy 4 and 5. We ask that the towns hang those together. So when that photo op comes along, all the banners are right there together. But, you know, as I said, the design is taken care of by us. The banner size can be made to whatever your brackets will hold. Our smallest one is 16 1/4 by 45 in North Salem, and Ladoga has that size as well. Our biggest are in Roachdale, and they're 30 by 80. The most common size is 24 by 60, and that's what those two banners are. So, but I would entertain any questions if you...
Questions or comments?
I don't have any.
I have several. First, I think what you're doing is great. Second, right now the town is preparing for its 200th anniversary in 2024, and there's a committee of people. Josh and I are on it, and Dave Moore, and there's others. Gina, there's others. So we're trying to figure out, because you put yours up for a whole year, is that what I understand?
Well, that would be up to the town. It's just that the chapter would need to know going into it because you have to let the participants know. Danville is one that, because of their Christmas decorations,
Yeah.
they remove them in mid-November and don't put them back till mid-January. But we know that so that that participant is not getting the full year because the way they hang their lights.
Right.
So that would have to be something that would be discussed. We had one town that I worked with another chapter, and they wanted 1 month. That's not long enough because there's too much work and the cost of it. You want to honor these people for a while. But that could be determined. How many polls do you have?
Do you know the answer to that?
107? That's quite a bit. The other thing might be a suggestion is to designate a certain area, maybe a few blocks, or do every other banner,
Yeah, I
every
think
other pole.
that's, the committee is looking at, do we do every third banner? Do we do every fourth banner? Do we do every other banner? And then we've got the seasonal ideas as well. But I think eventually it could evolve into where you have either a corridor that's dedicated to this, or you have some of them that are permanent, for a year long. But right now there's going to be competing interests because of the 200th anniversary for those polls.
Right, with that many banners, that would be a choice that the council would have to make. I know that a lot of towns that used to do the seasonal ones, they don't do those anymore because they prefer,
chose these.
They chose these to do that. Now Brownsburg, they have about 500 poles, so that's never a problem. They put them all the way down Main Street because they have enough other corridors and roads to put them.
They just dedicate a whole corridor.
All down 136 there.
So you could work with us a little bit, though, throughout the 200th anniversary at least. What's your minimum that you would have to make it even worth your time?
Well, like I said, with Danville, theirs is 10 months.
Okay.
But if you're looking at, when would you be looking at to put your bicentennial banners up?
I think we talked about by the end of this year, maybe in the September range. Is that what we said, going into the 200th and then throughout the 200th year?
Okay. So till September of 2024 then?
Well, it would be the end of 2024, because but it's not to say that you couldn't weave some of these in. We talked about doing that too earlier throughout the year. It's just, when those 200th anniversary banners come down, it's a once in a lifetime event. So when those come down, there'll be more opportunity for things like this too.
Right.
I just didn't know if you had any sort of flexibility with something like
Oh,
that, just because of
whatever
the timing.
you prefer, we do it for you.
So we can pick, say we have 107 polls, we could start with like 30 the first year, and then 20.
Whatever you designate, because that's the town's choice. The first year Plainfield did it, we were going to do it on Quaker Boulevard, and they were going to they had a lot of poles too, they were going to put the military banner, and then in between they were going to do an American flag banner. Well, then they decided to put them on 40 they just thought that was a better location, so then they just put them all together. So the choice is yours. You make the decision. We would work with you, but as far as the length of time, we would need to talk about that.
Yeah, just work that out.
Whatever you decide, and it may be something that it might allow 10 o'clock line a little bit more time.
What's the reception of people having to pay for them? Like, the idea of marking these up for the town to make money off of veterans, I think is kind of,
The town's not making money on it.
Oh, you said some of them charge $400.
Oh, I can't speak to that. I can't speak to those towns, what they do for that, but.
That leaves a bad taste in my mouth to make
There was
money
a
off
lot
of
of
that.
towns in the research, and not just in Indiana, but across the country that I looked. I even looked back in where I used to live in Illinois, and there was a town there, and they were selling them for $375. And that was when we started 4 years ago. So,
That
yeah.
bothers me.
And as I said, we want to stay within the mission of DAR, and that is honoring those that wear the uniform.
Do you ever have towns pay for them on behalf of the veterans?
Yes, we have. We had Ladoga. They're a very, very small community, and they bought 10 for theirs. Coatesville, they did not have the brackets. They bought the brackets and 42 banners for residents last year, and they're doing it again this year, coming into this year. And then there was a private citizen in Russellville. Russellville is a little economically depressed, and so they did not have any funds to do that. And there was a private citizen that believed in it so much that he paid for the banners.
Yeah.
And then the second year we did it, we had a company in Plainfield wanted it for their employee veterans. So they got all the paperwork together and the pictures. So I went out there and they gave us a check that was much more than what the 10 banners would have been. And I told them, and they said, no, we believe in your project. We want to donate this to the chapter. So what we did is there was enough for 6 or 7 extra banners. So we chose people throughout different communities that had done remarkable things within the community or while they served, or both. And those were complimentary banners for them. Instead of keeping the money, we turned it back around for them.
Do you ever have trouble with, families saying, well, my veteran did this, and why is my veteran not chosen? How do you go through the choosing process in a fair way?
Sometimes people think it is a selection process, and I'll get a military resume about 3 pages long, and it's first come, first served. First and foremost, they must be honorably discharged. That's the first requirement, and we do reserve the right to see the DD-214. We work so closely with a lot of the veterans because we have so many programs that we just, like I said, we turn these funds back, and we have dinners and breakfast and all kinds of programs for them. But they, some of them want a Purple Heart. Some of them want that they want, the different medals and so forth. Less is more on these banners. You get too much on there, it's too busy. We put as you saw, we put their name, their branch of service, and a conflict, if any. Some of them we have with 3 conflicts on there. If there was no conflict, that's left blank. If they were killed while serving, there's a gold star on there. Putting all of that other information, it's not fair to people because we do have people buy generational ones. So if they're buying one for their husband, they're buying one for their son, they may not know grandpa's medals. And those are a little bit harder to prove. And then you're cluttering it up and it's too busy and it doesn't look as clean and crisp. So less is more. They're all, designed with the patriotic theme on there, and they all stay consistent. They must be in uniform of some type. Some people did not have the formal uniforms, fatigues. Mr. Parker there, he looks about 12 in it playing Army, but, he's got his fatigues on and his Army hat. You can tell he's in the service. Some we have with the pilot gear, the headgear, and so forth. So.
Garbo or what?
And the pictures have to, we have the right to reserve to refuse some pictures too, because we want this to be a good reflection on the community, plus a good reflection on a project that we're doing too.
They will put her in touch with
I
her.
would like to see just, because I know we had a 200 year, but I'd like to see it start off with like 25, 30, and then grow, They have the other pole. The 200th is a big deal. However, if it wasn't for the veterans, we wouldn't be celebrating. So, I'd like to see us have something.
Do you think we should put her in touch with the committee? Just put her in touch with Jarbo, who's designing. Jarbo's helping to give us designs. And I think, they're working on that for the rest of the banners. Should we just put them in touch with her and?
I think these are two separate issues here.
Yeah.
I think what they're doing, they're good at, and we need to let them do what they're
I
good
think we
at.
can work together with them on placement and with the committee on placement where we want to place them,
Okay.
so it don't interfere.
Yeah.
But other than that, she could get the thing rolling, come July, then we'll be able to put some out. But I think we could, as a committee for the banners, we could
work around them.
try to figure out, hey, we got 30 banners we're going to start with. Where can we place these 30?
And then you could decide next year. The first
Right, where's a good
time
fit
for
for it?
presentation, I come to council meetings. I tell the girls, I haven't done this for a while because the towns, they'll either call us or, call and they say, we want to do it again. The first initial time I would get a copy of your minutes that say it's approved. My fear is that I show up with 30 banners in July and they're like, wait a minute, that's the last administration, we didn't approve this. So I do like to have it in minutes. And then the following years, if you do approve it, then we just get a letter from you that says we have allotted 30 poles or 20 poles or whatever to be hung from da-da-da to da-da-da. So,
Dave, do you have a suggestion on a number? Have you?
I think
I agree with Josh, around 30, like corridor, get started, and grow.
and it will grow because every year, once those banners go up, people will say, oh, I didn't know anything about it, I didn't know that, and
Right.
they will call. And we have a waiting list of over 200 every year going in. That's not to say that every single 200 of those purchase it, they can't find a photo or they don't have the money. And we have repeat customers every year. Somebody, I have siblings, I have 2 sisters and a brother, but siblings sometimes will squabble over who gets it, so they'll buy 3. One's hung and they keep the other 2 so that they all have one. Or a wife will buy one for a husband that when it comes down, then she gets a different one for each son or something, so.
I want to apologize, I didn't get to introduce you today,
Oh.
superintendent of the school department, so he'll be taking a while for taking it out, if you decide to go that way, so.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
Questions? Comments?
I think I've gotten all mine out.
I just like the idea too of us not have to have them made. We gotta do the putting up, Dave's guys gotta put them up, take them down. However, it's.
And they're, like I said, they're
Organization and then,
pretty sturdy. They come with the grommets, top and bottom, so we do recommend like a zip tie on there.
and we do have to get some brackets, we're short some brackets, but Dave's working on that.
We've had, in the 3 years ending for what went up in 2022, there were 600 banners. And in that time period, we've only lost 2 completely and 2 ripped, which I think is pretty good percentage. The high wind, sometimes if the bracket is wobbly or if it hits it just right, that's why we get really, really good specifications. We like to take a banner sample that you have and actually take it to the printer so that he can measure it, so that it fits just perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, those of you on the council that know me well, I like the idea of the veterans, near and dear to my heart. Those of you that really know me well know that if I had $120 in my billfold, I would probably want to be first on that list tonight for my father. I appreciate what you're doing.
It's a big honor.
It is.
It's a little emotional. The participants don't see the banners beforehand until they're mounted. I saw these things in my sleep. You could say a name, and I could tell you what they looked like 50 years ago or 20 years ago. And the first year I had my husband hung by my father, and it was very emotional when you first see them. Very emotional, and I'm not a crier, but but it is. And you know, through COVID and as our veterans age, we lose them every day. And some of them, unfortunately, Mr. Parker did not get to see his banner. He bought one for his brother-in-law the year before, and his daughter bought one for him for a surprise, and he died a month before they went up. So it's emotional for those families. So that's a real keepsake for them to have. So.
Gentlemen, I need a motion to allow her to proceed with a number, and I am good from the 25 to 30 up to the 107. So she needs it in the minutes, and I understand that also.
Did you have something else?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. What was your minimum you said were you thinking, I might have missed that? Your minimum? Yeah, I mean.
Whatever you decide. We have a town, Amo, only has 6 streetlights in their town, and they bought brackets for them, and they have 6 banners every year. And they don't just have to go on streetlights. Some towns have them on telephone poles. A lot of the rural ones have them on Clayton, Claremont, Rochdale. They have them on telephone poles.
That's where I first really I saw them, but I first really noticed them is in Amo. My sister lives there, and why can't we do this? I mean, that's.
One family does, and I said it's first come, first serve, and they meet the requirements of honorably discharged and photo and so forth. One family bought 5 of the 6, so they'll have their whole family there.
And I think honestly it'll help even bring people in for the 200.
It might, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Out of town and stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow her to start with 30 banners, and then we can, following year, we can see if we can fit more in or just revisit it every year.
Do you have a month you want it here for?
Well, I think you said the earliest would be probably July, so I think we would.
30 is manageable for July. Anything more than that would probably not be. If they vote in March and they decide to take it, that gives too much. We have a deadline when orders are. I get calls every day for banners.
I think 30 is a good number with the 200th year, and I think we can work as a committee to determine where to put them.
It may not be the 4th of July because that's the first of the month, and they meet the end March, don't you? Toward, yeah, so.
Just another job for Dave's.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Josh Gray, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
Where do we send, like, will you get with, Dave? And then, do you have a website you want to send them to that we could say now so people know where to go? Because they're going to start calling, where can we go to get that?
Wait till March to see if they're going to.
Okay.
do it, But, we can talk and maybe start that process a little bit earlier as far as getting photos and so forth. But they don't go to a website. We need the actual hard copy of a photo.
Okay.
If you send them digitally, it may look wonderful online, but it might be this big, and when you blow those up to 6 feet or 5 feet tall, they get very pixelated and distorted.
Okay, so you can get that contact information to Dave, who can maybe put it on the town Facebook or website. Yeah.
You got my contact, so you can just contact me.
And there's strict regulations for nonprofits for social media. So we don't use social media. We didn't use social media the first year, but now we just say we're taking orders and they're available. What I normally do is I will write a narrative, and all the towns are the same, and send it to you if you put it on your website with my contact information. And then I join do you have a town chatter page? Okay,
We have plenty of them.
pardon?
We have plenty of them.
But, yeah, I know where every lost dog and person that cut someone off in every community is, because I belong to all of those. That way I can join, and I can put in, and I put the picture out there, and then any questions, I can answer those and filter them, because we don't put a price on there, and we don't put fundraiser, because it's interstate, and you can't do that on that, so we just put to PM me. And when they PM me, I say, give me your email, I'll send you all the information. The order form, again, the one thing I did, the order form also says that we live in some high wind area. We have tornadoes and high winds, and the order form says that in the event of damage, violence, theft, vandalism, anything of that nature, that the banner may be torn or missing, the town is under no obligation, nor are we to replace it. So that's covered.
Today she recommends a zip tie. Zip ties.
Now, how do you, as far as the people that want to do the signs, like I had an uncle that he lived here and he served when he was here, but then he moved away.
When we first started out, we said they needed to have a connection to the area. Well, people were coming and saying, my husband was in Vietnam, my son is serving in Afghanistan, I would love to have one for my father and hang them beside him, but he never lived here. How are you going to refuse a veteran? How are you going to refuse an honor? So we said that they could either have a connection, or the connection could be you live in the area, and that's a relative of yours. Because we would never want to refuse someone, because, like I said, they are really wonderful keepsakes and an honor to their loved ones. So we have two right here.
Yep.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the sewer leak adjustment. This was included in the packet. This is the Mooresville Friends Church. If you notice that they did send with this, or to us, the adjustment that was made by the water company. Then there was also an adjustment, and the town matched that adjustment. But they have requested that it could be on the average of their normal bills. Comments or questions?
They even included where they fixed the problem too.
Yes.
So
Something we've done in the past, correct?
More here of late. The adjustment was made to match the meters. We did a couple years ago. We matched it to the averages of the winter use for irrigation systems, because that water did not go down the sewer. This would be a similar argument, I would assume. Comments or questions? Motion to either deny, approve, or table the request.
I make a motion to approve, legal, saving amount of
Yes.
$367.78. Plus adjustment, I believe that's.
It would be the bottom number, the additional, the 372.87.
Okay, 372.87.
Yes.
It's 77, but mine says 77, but it's only 10 cents.
Mine says 87.
Yours does? Mine says
370.
77.
372.87, the very bottom one.
Mine says 77. Oh, okay. Right here it says, in the cover letter, it says 77.
Yeah, and then this is 77.
Motion been made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Josh, Greg, 5-0. Next item is amendment to the fire department policies. Jeff, I believe you placed this on there. Do you want Matt up here?
No, I don't need him. I read while going over the policies, it's policy 1.01. We got a part-time employee that's holding the rank of division chief. That was made recently, and it's my opinion, we don't need a part-time employee holding rank over a full-time employee. So I think it's something that needs to be looked at and modified.
And I think you and I have I know you and I have discussed this, and I think what the issue was, the person in question was doing one duty and task, and this tag or rank was added to that. Was it no additional pay or anything?
Yeah, no additional pay, no additional job responsibilities. That's a merit position for a full-time employee. This employee's part-time, he's valued. He does a good job for us. But I just feel it's a responsibility of this board to invest in those who invest in us. I mean, a full-time employee needs to hold those ranks, not a part-time employee that's here part-time. Just doesn't make sense to me, so. It's merely just a title, is all it is. It went from EMS coordinator to division chief, is all it is. But going through the chain of command under SOP 1.01, that would put him in authority over a full-time personnel, career firefighter, as a part-time employee.
And there's no oversight or anything like that as far as he could go in and fire someone, or is there?
He could discipline somebody, yes. As a part-time employee.
And just for my chain of command, what section was that? Say that again.
1.01, it was on page 5. And going through that, that's all I seen that needed to be addressed for now.
Jeff, would you have a problem if we tabled this and brought it back with a little more information?
Yeah, I would. I mean, that's all the information there is. I mean, there's nothing else to get from it. What information you need?
Well, I guess and you said you didn't need Matt up here. I kind of want to I talked to you for good length on it. I'd kind of like to know what the train of thought was in establishing this way.
Matt's here, bring him out.
Okay. Matt?
We just don't have any other departments in town that have part-time employees in charge of full-time employees.
And we've not done it in the fire department before.
Maybe have.
Okay.
But if we have, it was wrong.
Pat, can you explain?
So, with that being said, that I agree with Councilman Cook that I do think that this position needs to be a full-time position. Unfortunately, with the budget that I am given, I have to have time to work that budget in. I think it's time that this town, for this department, looking at everything. This gentleman is overseeing all the EMS reports for quality control. He is working with the hospitals. He is working with our crews, making sure that all their EMS is taken care of, so our reports are taken care of and properly wrote. With that being said, he's also working with the state to make sure that our EMS certification is taken care of, so we are in compliance with the state guidelines. With that being said, this gentleman is doing it at part-time, as Councilman Cook said. I would like to try to make this a full-time position, but unfortunately with that budget, I'm not able to at this point in time until we can get that approved by you guys during budget time. With him saying with disciplinary actions, if he's going to discipline, he has to meet with his superior officer, and those two have to have the same agreements. If not, then that has to come up further up the chain and make sure that discipline is appropriate for the actions if needed. If not, then it's tabled and it comes to you guys as the safety board for further decisions.
Would he ever have to discipline anyone in this position?
He can, or he has, let me rephrase that. He could. It's very, very possible. But would he do it on arbitrarily of doing anything out of the normal? No. He wouldn't just come up and say, I need you to go clean the bathrooms, and somebody says, no, I'm not going to do that. He wouldn't discipline just because he didn't make a direct order. It would have to meet under everything that, if you look at the policy of that job description, 90% of his job description is EMS. It would have to fall under the EMS for what the state already requires. And that's what he's following right now. Even as the EMS coordinator, he is following that guideline. The only thing that we did with the guidance of legal counsel Copeland was basically make it for full-time versus part-time as a one policy that can be changed if need to be.
So he doesn't need this title to do the job that he's doing.
No, under a previous administration, he had the title of that. The only reason that the title was done that way was that way if there was a disciplinary action that he could do that with his superior officer, which would be the assistant chief.
I mean, he's doing the same job, no more responsibilities, and you forgot the DEA. He also works with DEA with the medication and stuff that we have.
That is coming down the pike. He's not really...
He has the same responsibilities that he has as EMS coordinator, but now he's in the chain of command per the SOP as a part-time employee. Which shouldn't be. He should be kept an EMS coordinator. If he's got a problem or somebody in violation, then he takes it to our administration for them to handle the discipline, not a part-time guy.
Was this just approved, like, in December, the policy for this, revised, or it went from
It was the last meeting in December. I wasn't here. That's what
It was approved 4-0 by this board.
So it went from because this is new to me, so it went from coordinator to division chief, right?
Correct.
It just sends a wrong message to the full-time employee career firefighter here that we're taking merit ranks and giving it to part-time employees that are working at other agencies. You know, it'd be like taking a part-time guy, and making him in charge of the police department. It's just unheard of. Well, I don't know. It just sends a wrong message. I think we send a message to our people that we invest in those who invest in us. I mean, if they're willing to spend a career here, train them, give them room for advancement, send them to training, show them the ropes on how to do this job, not farm it out part-time. You know, and we've got people that are more than competent enough to do this job. I'm not saying take anything away from the position we have. He can still do his part-time work. It's merely a title and in the chain of command per the policy. And that's what needs to be addressed.
As of right now, we don't have anybody that is full-time that is able to take this role on. As it stands right now.
Yeah, I said we could train people to do that. And we do have people in training right now that could do that.
There's people in training, but they're coming out and they're going to be a 1-year senior vet where you've got one gentleman that has got 28 years that is already doing this job.
And I understand that. That 28-year vet started at day one somewhere. So, again, this is a full-time job. We run a full-time firefighting department. I think that a full-time person needs to be holding these ranks as chief, not a part-time person. When it's merely a title. It wasn't done in the public. It was done under the cover of darkness. Nobody knew about it. He wasn't brought to the council and introduced like the last chief we had. It was this not a good message to our employees. And they deserve to be fought for harder than they are.
Okay?
Does the job require the ability to discipline?
Does it require?
Yeah, can he do a good job without, so in other words, if he were to keep the position but be taken out of the chain of command, can he do the job?
Yes. He has done it before.
Is that a possibility, Jewel, to amend it to where the part-time person's not in a chain of command situation but can hold the title? You see what I'm saying? Am I making myself clear what I'm asking? Because I think the issue is his ability to discipline other employees.
Right, and in the chain of command,
Part-time and
that
first.
position is in the chain of command.
I mean, I think what you would want to do is have language that you want so like you have an actual written change to
Yes.
the policy of what you want and be voting on that. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So I'm
have you seen similar language to what I've described in other departments, or have you ever seen this issue come up?
I've not had an issue like this in any of my other departments.
So basically, we just leave it as division chief, but make in the policy where part-time employee cannot discipline full-time employees, but still has the title.
From what I'm hearing, and you can correct, and this is why I think it's important to have a written policy to be considered. From what I'm hearing, it's that he's not going to be the division chief because at that point he's placed into the chain of command. It would be that essentially language along the lines that a part-time employee of the department cannot hold a rank or grade that is within the chain of command. It's something of that nature.
That's correct.
That rank is in the chain of command.
Yeah, so
Basically, I mean,
In that scenario, though, you'd be demoting the gentleman, correct? Or can you grandfather it?
I mean, that's another thing that I'm going to want to look at is if it is a merited position, you cannot reduce rank and grade without offering a hearing on that. But I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here
Okay.
that I would like to get into and again, come up with language that you guys are looking at and voting on language if you're going to be making a change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What was his title before?
EMS coordinator, underneath Chief Metzger and myself until we revamp this policy.
And is it in the policy? Are those two different positions? The division chief and the EMS coordinator, or is that one?
It was one, it's just a title change.
Why did you see that necessary, or why did legal counsel say that was necessary?
It was just basically what it was doing is that if there was any discipline, he could basically take care of that, do his investigation, go to the next superior officer, and then come up with the decision that needed to be made for if there was any disciplinary actions.
Prior to that, he would have just brought it to the next higher in command and said,
He has brought it out to the shift commanders, he's brought it to the chiefs, and then basically the chiefs would have to write up the disciplinary action, or the shift officers would have to write the disciplinary actions and then issue those out. Where here it's just basically eliminating one step.
if the disciplinary action was against the shift commander or shift leader, then did he bypass that and go right to the next step, or
He would go right past that one and go right to the next step up.
did that system not work? Did you have an example that it did not work?
No.
Then why wouldn't we just make him an EMS coordinator and not have to rewrite all that and leave the merit positions for full-time firefighters?
Because I was looking forward to the future and trying to better our department and making use of what I was dealt with and just making the structure.
I'm not with a part-time guy. You don't put a part-time employee in charge of a full-time firefighter. No more than we would let Chief Buckner, a reserve police officer, make him a major and make him in charge of his lieutenants. You just wouldn't do it. He's a part-time guy. So,
If he makes a motion that we back out of this, do we have to rewrite that policy? Because if it's in there as a division chief slash, there's not two positions in there. We made that one position.
If this council chooses to make this EMS division chief back to an EMS coordinator with the guidance of this council and the safety board that oversees our policies, then I would just go back in and change the EMS division chief back to an EMS coordinator. Everything else would stay as it is because that's what his title was before. I think I'd have to change. I'm sorry, I take that back. I'd have to change a little bit of the wordage in the summary of overseeing some fire ground stuff and tactics. But he is an extension of our chain of command to help watch over the safety of our guys if we are in a house fire and stuff like that. He could be a safety officer, but he would be underneath the direction of a chief.
If you're wanting to make a change, I think it is going back through and rewriting that section of the policy, presenting that to the council for consideration and action upon.
But we ask him to rewrite it and bring it back to us.
Right, because it's going to have to change. It's not just going to be, he's going to want to make sure it's
Correct.
consistent throughout.
Jeff, do you understand that? The motion would be to have him change the policy, bring it back to us for our approval.
who's rewriting the policy? Legal?
Legal will review it. I mean, legal helped him write it to
Right.
begin with.
Yeah, and it's going to be under the assumption that no part-time employee will have authority over a full-time employee. Is that right, Joel?
Well, I think this change would be getting rid of the title, the merited title and the chain of command of division chief, EMS division chief, and just rewriting it as EMS coordinator to be the head of that line. Now,
Yeah, but he's not gonna be able to take disciplinary action on a full-time employee.
so
He never has in the past, and that worked.
well,
You know,
it's almost, I don't want to say it's semantics. If an occasion arises in which discipline needs to occur by the EMS coordinator, while he may not be the one writing it, he's still going to be the one that is starting the process for the disciplinary procedure against.
that's right, and he's got supervisors he answers to and all that.
Right, and so I think that delineation of the ability to start the disciplinary process, because if I understand it right, even as the division chief, he cannot implement any disciplinary procedures without additional approval.
Correct.
So this really would go more towards just the policy of, in the chain of command, you want to make sure that you don't have a part-time person that is going to be overseeing full-time. You don't want to have a part-time person holding higher rank.
Right, and I don't necessarily want to get rid of the division chief for, like you said, for expansion, if we do down the road need that position to be filled, it's there.
And so that is, that's the root of the question that I have through this is, are we really wanting to change the policy of having a division chief, the EMS division chief? But my understanding, Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, you don't have within the budget a division chief line item that is funded at a full-time position.
Not for the EMS. I do have a division chief funded right now for inspections and investigations. But again, that was going to take time to get a new one put into a budget if this council approves to move forward with the future of this town, of the EMS. And really, as I was sitting here looking at the policy really, his policy has nothing to do with any disciplinary actions. It would just basically be a quick change of division chief of EMS to EMS coordinator, and then change the summary of the control of the fires and extinguishment and life properties, if that's what you guys choose.
So you're just going to make him back an EMS coordinator?
If that's what this council chooses.
Is that the easier way to go, Joel? Is this the motion to make him an EMS coordinator? And we keep the wording in there how it is, or?
My personal opinion, with our runs at 85% of EMS is what we take care of, we have to have a policy that takes care of seeing the operations of the department for the EMS. We have to.
And we've got him. We've been doing that.
Right, as the EMS coordinator, and then I just basically changed it to the EMS
So
division.
nothing's changed other than the wording.
Correct.
So,
I think what you will want to do, though, is you don't want to just say that. I think you'll want it in a written document that is actually changing the policy. Because unless you change the policy itself, you're going to have that division chief position there. And if that individual can't hold it, you have this open gap in your chain of command.
I think the big fight is no part-time employee should have authority over a full-time career personnel. So if we can get that into a policy, I don't care if they call him chief or whatever they call him, but he shouldn't have authority over full-time personnel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but my question is, does he, even as just the EMS coordinator, does he have oversight over full-time personnel, other EMS people there?
He has authority over me if it's an EMS call, because he has the highest medical
By
authority.
law.
So that, I guess that's what I don't know that.
That's
that
like
change-
scene. That's like on the scene, right?
Right. I don't know that changing the language that way actually effectuates a change where a part-time employee is not going to have supervisory roles over a full-time. Does that make sense?
I think
Changing that name from division chief to EMS coordinator, I don't think removes your issue of a part-time employee being in a supervisory role to a full-time employee. Because whenever the EMS call comes in, he's
He's the
top
highest.
of the line, right?
Right. And if a doctor shows up, then he's the top of the line.
Right.
Right.
But so I'm struggling with that part right now. if that
On
makes sense.
station, he wouldn't have really any authority, but in the field,
Yeah, that's only on, you're
Whatever.
talking scene.
Right.
right, just on the scene.
On the
I can
scene.
understand that.
Well, he oversees the narcotics that we have, and
Right,
that's
right.
because
Yeah,
that
you have to
is
have that. That's very important.
correct,
yeah.
because he has the highest authority on that portion of it.
Yeah,
And if he says that I need to lock him up, I have to lock him up.
yeah.
My suggestion is this. Let me work with Chief Dalton to come up with some language and we'll give it to you for review
Okay.
to see if that satisfies your concerns. And then, once we get that, we can present it to the council for consideration.
Okay.
Now we make a motion to table.
When will you have that, Joel?
What's that?
When will you have it?
I'll work with him to have it in the February meeting.
Okay.
If you table it, it'd go to the next meeting.
All right. Motion to table.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Josh, 5-0. Board recognition.
I asked for this to be put on here, given all of the, board, some people have retired, you mentioned some of the names. Just want to make sure we don't miss people, recognizing people when they leave and have served the town. But Diana and I had talked about this a while back, so I don't know, maybe we should table it until she's here. This will be things like just giving them a plaque or something like that is in honor of their service. And who we would do that for and the process and when.
So are you wanting to discuss it or are you wanting to table it?
I mean, if it's I think I'd rather have Diana here to be part of that discussion because their office sort of handles the purchase of those types of things.
So. is that
Motion to table.
Okay. Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, Greg, 5-0. Department head reports, not just yet. Under the wastewater treatment plant, hold on just a second, I'm going to jump in here so I don't forget it. Under the wastewater treatment plant, I spoke to each and every one of you about some housekeeping that we needed to do at our plant. We needed to appoint, or I need the council's permission to appoint Calvin Bolte as the acting operator in charge. This is just paperwork, or his ability to submit paperwork to IDEM and the state of Indiana. I spoke to Calvin this morning. He is on board, ready to go. It just streamlines a little bit of the process right now.
Motion to make Calvin Bolte the active operating officer in charge there.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Greg, 5-0. Okay, Dave, sorry.
Thank you. I've got a couple things. First off, I'd like to start off by introducing, she's already been introduced tonight, but Brenda Hunt, she has spent hours and hours in our office volunteering, going through the cemetery records and lining everything up. And she's been there Christmas, Thanksgiving. I think her husband misses her. He has to come and get her in the morning and take her for coffee because he just didn't see her. But we really appreciate that and just wanted the board to see a face with a name. I know I've mentioned her a time or two, but This is Brenda.
And she's doing the online mapping of the cemetery that we're,
She's assisting with that. The Banning guys started the process. They've got us through to this point. Now, she's going through to make sure that everything is perfectly lined up. I can't really describe what she does. It's way over my head.
It's all right, we'll teach you.
But I just wanted to recognize her for that. And second thing is our community crossings grant. We're getting kind of down to the wire. We're going to have to advertise next week. And Mark Butler is here again tonight. Just wondering if the council wants to move forward with land acquisitions to complete this project.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, I think what really has spurred this on, so here's my concern, because on that project, when you talk about those 11 parcels, we do not hold the right-of-way, right? It is deeded to the, those 11 parcels. In order for us to do any work in there, the minute we come in there, even with a grant of easement, or temporary grant of easement to do the work, once we start doing work within that area, we are effectuating and changing the property that is in the title right now without an easement for us of the landowner. Even though there's right of way right there right now, or right there, even though there's a road there right now. I believe that this plan calls for the addition of the sidewalks that are going to be coming in, which will be a disturbance and a change to that. So the minute we start doing that, that really opens the town up to inverse condemnation action, saying, hey, wait a second, you owe us this. In order for us to truly go forth and finish this and do this project, I think, properly, especially in fairness to those 11 property owners, you know, I fully understand the discussion of and the intent of going to talk to the 11 property owners to see if they're willing to, quote, donate the right-of-way in order to see this project through. I believe we should have our uniform acquisition offer in place, which means that you'll have your appraisals in place, so that that can be presented to the property owner. Because what I don't want this council to be facing down the road is you have 4 property owners agree to a donation of the right-of-way. 7 of them say no, you go into eminent domain proceedings, and those 7 get their just compensation award, and then you have these 4 other property owners who are upset because they didn't know that could have happened, right?
yeah.
I know, I think I told Mark this earlier, I know it may have a chilling effect on getting donations for the property, but it's really I think in the best interest of the town to make sure you have those things lined out so you can move forward, so we don't run into issues in the future. So it'd be my recommendation to give Banning the green light to move forward, to line up that so that the records can be cleared up through the proper property acquisition. And the hope is that you will not need us in that process. Because I think he's got his appraisers lined out. I think Katie Rep is put out as the purchasing agent, the land rep. And I've worked with Katie in several different communities, and she knows what she's doing, and she's very responsive and great with the property owners. So I think just preparing them and allowing them to go forth, hopefully it resolves in getting everything taken care of.
Would legal need a separate approval to move forward in case this happens?
Yeah,
to work with Banning, or is that under our retainer
No,
anyway?
I mean, you would be looking at an additional role if we were going down the road of condemnation, right? So if we would have to file a condemnation action, that would be a separate legal action.
Right.
Hope is we don't have to get down to that point. The hope is that it can be negotiated through Katie Rep with the appraisal value that you have, because you can't purchase rights to property without an appraisal. And if they donate it, great. If not, we got to figure something out.
We discussed that a little bit over email, and that is totally fine. We're here just to facilitate that process if the council chooses to go forward. I've got 2 copies of the same amendment if you choose to go forward. So, and nothing has changed since last council meeting as far as pricing and process. So, Yep.
Again, this is for a sidewalk that did not fall within the grant and will be paid outside of the grant, correct?
This is not only that sidewalk, but
The road also.
the road
I get that,
also.
But I mean,
And
it is part of that project, but it wasn't within the grant funding.
correct. Yep, the east sidewalk is exactly what you're saying. The west sidewalk did fall in the grant because there was a sidewalk there before. Yeah. As far as what the town got matching money for, does that make sense?
And if something would go wrong, it was not put into the grant for that sidewalk to be a part of it.
The
Correct?
east one,
We
correct.
We did it as a separate job. That way, if things went south on us, we could still do the project within the grant and receive the money.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
You're saying that we need to go ahead, get the appraisals done, approach the property owners, see if we can get those rights of ways.
Right, I think you'd still go down the road of the temporary grant of easement if the timing is
Yeah.
a concern for the project. But before you go in to talk about a donation with the property owners, I think it's in the best interest to have a valuation of it so that they know what they're donating. Because it's not, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an engineer, so I look at drawings and I think I know what I see. While the east sidewalk was not part of the grant, none of the right-of-way technically has been, the town does not own any right-of-way in that section. We're having to get the right-of-way to reflect both the roadway, the west side sidewalk, and the east side sidewalk.
Yeah, that is correct in the case of the 11 properties.
11 properties.
Yes, there's no town right-of-way that is owned, correct. Yeah, so, let me ask a question if I can. Do you think it'd be okay to, we go ahead and draft those, grant of easements, or, grant of entry? Approach them ahead of time to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you agree to this grant of entry? And then quickly, because that would be during the appraisal process, it takes about 30 days, 20 days
Right.
to get an appraisal.
So I think I
Or
sent
would we
you.
wait?
No, I think I sent you the revised language with the
Okay.
additional whereas
Yes,
clause
you
in
did.
there, right?
You did.
And so I
Yeah.
think that can set it up where you can talk to them about the temporary grant of entry for the work, because it says in there that the parties are fully understood that there is an acquisition that needs to occur,
Yes.
whether that be through donation or condemnation. And then, but before you start talking to them about a donation of the right-of-way, that you have the numbers so that they know what they're.
Okay, understood. So we can have that grant of entry conversation first, and then, yeah, okay. Very good.
Okay, so we are changing it just a little bit. We had originally said at our last meeting that we were just going to do the grant of entry. We need to, the motion to have Banning move forward with the appraisals and acquiring 11 properties rights of ways.
Have Banning move forward with the appraisals and acquiring 11 property right-of-ways.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Greg Shane, 5-0. Did you have anything else, David?
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Taking care of my book, aren't you? Good.
There's this. 2 copies.
Yeah, 2 copies. If I can, take one with me, that'd be great. So, make sure you have the right county. It's an amendment to the appraisals, so the terms are the same.
Few things real quick. As of yesterday morning, no, I'm sorry, this morning, Lieutenant Jonathan Hartsock has left. His last day was this morning at 7 o'clock. His shift was yesterday. He's actually going to Martinsville Fire Department. Martinsville Fire Department Chief has reached out to me With everything going on with things being back ordered and this and that, they've asked me if we would be willing to sell his gear, and I said that I would have to bring it up to you guys because it is the department's gear or the town's gear. We did purchase this gear last year in April of 2022, so it is fairly new gear for them. I think they said about 6 months in gear for them to buy it because he is a weird, odd shape. His torso is a little bit longer and stuff, so he has to get kind of custom fit. So with that, I'm just coming to you guys to see if you are willing to sell Martinsville the gear with legal's help and drafting up a contract to sell Martinsville their gear for us, or from us, buy their gear from us, I'm sorry.
Are we able to recoup what we have invested?
So right now, we are at 28.44 in a set of gear. Prices have not been negotiated on that. So with it being a year, I would say we could get very close to that 28.44.
Comments from the council?
Yeah, I have a couple. What are your plans on replacement? And if we do hire, do we have gear for that
So-
employee, or are we going to count on this set?
So I have already gave out a conditional offer of employment to one of our part-time, was on our roster already. So he's got gear. He's been with us since 2018.
How new is his gear?
His gear is also new.
Okay.
He was one of that last batch that got the new gear. With that being said, was my next comment. My staff and I are going to be starting a list to get a new list going. So if we do have anybody leaving, then we'll have it. As of right now, we have about 6 backup sets that are currently not being used. So this will not hurt us if you guys do decide to sell this gear.
Your recommendation to sell it?
My recommendation is to go ahead and sell it, because like I said, we've got 6 backup sets that are not being utilized right now.
You have to declare it surplus and go through that whole process and then sell it, or what?
We're looking at an interlocal agreement this time.
Correct.
With them, so we'll build it all into the interlocal agreement.
So it'd just be subject to an agreement, a contract?
Right, so
basically.
within the interlocal agreement, it'll have the language to.
I see.
Motion?
I motion we approve Chief Dalton to move forward with selling that turnout gear.
We add cost, our cost? We can
I'll
get
leave it up to the chief.
I'll try to get the 2288, which is the set. I mean, that's up for negotiation, I guess, with them.
motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Craig, 5-0.
Legal, here's the, information for you.
Then, like I said, the next thing was on my list was I was going to be basically doing a list to basically get that moving forward and have a list in case we do have somebody moving on down the road. There is a lot of departments that are hiring. It's one of those things. It's everywhere. I mean, it's police and law enforcement all over, or I'm sorry, law enforcement and fire all over is going around. So I have nothing further, and you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank you for appointing the park board members. We were getting pretty thin there of making sure we had a quorum, so we will get those 2 up to speed very quickly, and then we have a third that we are working on getting appointed from the circuit court judge. So we have already recognized each time people go off, we recognize them, and they were not planning on continuing, even if they weren't reappointed. So thank you for doing that. Best news I think we probably have is that we are back to pre-COVID schedule, which for us, the only thing that had not been scheduled is our daddy-daughter date night. and our mother-son dance, which daddy-daughter has been around for 25, 30 plus years. So that's back on schedule. So we're glad to say that we are out of restrictions of COVID for now. Projects with me leaving, my last day is Friday. We've been delegating and getting assistance from other departments. So they're all up to speed. I do want to introduce Keelan Simpson, who's in the back. Keelan, if you don't know him, is our current assistant superintendent. He has been named the acting interim superintendent as of when I leave Friday. He is not applying for the superintendent position, so the park board is doing a search. So there will be someone else named when they find someone. So in the meantime, he will be doing his role as well as the superintendent's role. That's all I have.
Best of luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I just have a few things. One of the things is Motorola, we had a slight hiccup on the Motorola grant, but Motorola customer service was great about getting us over that hump on the grant money, because we almost lost the grant money the first year because of a misunderstanding on how it was supposed to be built. So, but
What are you talking about for the body cameras?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because the grant only paid for the body camera itself. It didn't pay for anything else. So Motorola didn't invoice us just for the body cameras. They invoiced us for like the charging stations and
Everything,
stuff.
yeah.
And we had to have that in before the first of the year, or we would have lost that money. So we only had 4,200. Debbie was great as always. She and I worked together and worked with customer service at Motorola, and we got that fixed. So we should be good to go on that. I got a notification from the art department at Mooresville High School that they should have our badge designs
Oh, awesome.
sometime either late this week or early next week for both the 200th anniversary badge and to redesign our regular wear badge. So I'm excited to see what they have. Once I get those, I'll definitely make you guys privy to what they look like before I publish those out to anything else. If they have multiple ones, then we'll just have to figure out how we're going to vote on that. So we have our first meeting with the drug task force tomorrow down in Martinsville. So Mooresville, Martinsville, and Morgan County Sheriff, along with DEA support. We're having our organizational meeting in the morning. So I'll be going down for that, and I'll kind of get a better idea of how things are going to run. I actually reached out to Metro Drug and got a lot of their fiduciary responsibility documentation and so forth, because they're trying to make it self-sufficient. So we'll try to run it off just what we forfeit and not draw from anybody's budget. Which will, be beneficial, probably not in the beginning, but probably down the road. We'll probably have a lot more funds available to us when we need equipment and stuff that we can use for equipment and training. The last thing I have is we had a department head meeting last Thursday, and we, as department heads, decided to start meeting with other IT departments on the 9th of February to we were making a list of what we need to operate or just for basic operations for our servers and our support. And then I think Chris is going to reach out to some companies and say, hey, here's what we expect, here's what we need, can you do it? And then we'll just kind of look forward from there. So I didn't know how to do that, if I needed to tell you that or ask you that or what we needed to do, so I thought I'd bring it up here.
I think we're under contract with who we've got now until later this year.
Mm-hmm.
Justification, we do have a claw out on it, so I guess keep us updated.
Yeah, I'm open for whatever. I'm new to this process, so you tell me. We lost a couple more emails today at the police department. It doesn't seem like anybody else is being affected. That's why I'm kind of scratching my head. So I don't know.
What do you mean lost emails?
The emails won't work. So we have to get online, which takes out the whole calendar and everything else that you have function with Outlook. So we're actually online, and it functions a lot differently than what the Outlook does. The Outlook, we put a lot of our, like, I put my calendar stuff on there, so everybody knows what, like Darlene and John knows where I'm gonna be. You can't really do that online, and I'm not an IT guy, obviously.
Not either.
I mean, I grew up with a Mac with a big floppy disk in high school, so, I don't know, I haven't.
Did we call Telemagine? Did
I
they
haven't
know?
I haven't been contacted by them to say, hey, let's fix this. I had a problem with my uniform place, and the owner called me the very next day and said, hey, let's fix this. I haven't heard from him.
Did you call?
No, I didn't call. No, I think maybe Steve had called, but I don't know what the answer is. I've been told that our security updates weren't updated, and then now we've updated them, and they're still not working, so I don't know.
So Steve called Telemagine today, and you
I
don't know?
don't think he called them today. I think he called them, he keeps in contact, because he and Steve are pretty tight. So,
Right.
I just want it fixed.
I understand, but if they just went down today, we don't know if we reported that problem, or is that something they should be
So
notified
yeah,
already?
we had just another one go down today.
Right.
You know, but we've had other ones go down, like mine went down, Darlene's went down, and John's went down, and we're just kind of going. But I don't know why, the question I have is, why nobody else is being affected by this?
Right.
So, I am special. My mom told me that. So,
Do you have any thoughts? Got a police commissioner? He's in IT,
He has-
he's a
I
police
know he has,
commissioner, he's in IT.
Chris actually volunteered to kind of help us with what we need to hear, and,
Okay.
I mean, since we're, ignorant to the IT part of this. I have and on the 4th of February, we're doing our first financial wellness class for the officers. I've invited Morgan County and Martinsville to be there. I'm looking forward to that, so we're hosting that. Hopefully it helps the officers out. It's totally free. And it just helps them learn how to build budgets and save money so when they get ready to retire, they can retire financially, so.
How many's in that class?
Well, I'm
Where's it
taking
gonna be held at? How many?
down in the basement, or down in our training room. So right now.
You open it up to like office girls and all that?
Yeah.
Anybody?
I said anybody, any employee that wants to come. The only thing, the only disadvantage that we have is we don't have a matching fund, like we did in the city with deferred compensation or anything like that. So that's one of the main things that they kind of hit on to put a lot of money into when you're young or whatever. But it also teaches budgeting and teaches how, different things that you can invest your money in that's good, and different things and some things that are bad. And like I said, I told the sheriff and the chief down there, we're not trying to sell anything. It's all free. It's just cops trying to help cops. And if the civilians want to come, I always encourage them to bring their wives, because, they're usually the bosses of the financial realm anyway. I know in my house at least. So, we're just opening it up. And whoever shows up, I had an RSVP because I'm going to get some pizzas and stuff, because they always like to eat lunch. So yeah, everything else is going real good. Don't really have any major problems at this point. Still going through organizational woes. Getting rid of some paperwork from the 1980s.
How did your turnout go from PT?
The turnout went well. We actually had 12 people show up, take the PT test. Since then, I've received more applications from the Morgan County Sheriff's Department. So whatever sheriff's down there, I appreciate it. I'll take all tier ones I can get. So we're going to continue. We're going through those. The background investigations are being done now, which take time. We have to pull credit reports and talk to references, and so sometimes the references don't call you back. It takes a while. So it's a process, and then that process doesn't end, and then when you have to deal with perf, and then that. So I don't know how other departments are doing it so quickly. I thought about calling the chiefs and asking them, but we're losing people off our list because they're getting hired someplace else just like that. So I don't know what they're doing differently than we are. They all have to go through perf, 77 perf. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that.
So the ones that just turned in that are tier one, are they being considered, or are they in the background phase also?
Yeah,
Okay.
we still do the background. It's a.
Yeah, but I didn't know since they missed.
It's a box to check. And,
Okay, yeah.
And but I've kind of put those in the front of the line, and then we'll set up interviews for the other 12. Well, actually 10, because 2 didn't pass the written test. So then we use the standardized written test that we got from a company. So instead of creating our own. So, yeah, we're hoping to fill out, the Ronnie Cap should be pretty close on perf. I'm not sure what takes so long, but, it just takes, it's government. And then we'll try to fill out last spot.
Do you have an update on the canine?
Yeah, so they're doing their interviews on the 30th of January. The Ultimate Canine is actually coming and doing the interviews of the officers to see which officer is best suited for the dogs. Not only that, but then they look at the officer's situation as far as family and kids, and they decide what dog is best for that officer.
How many officers do you have that have applied for it? Do you know what kind of dog it is yet? I mean, I was just curious.
Julie gave us, two different options, either Labrador or Malinois. So I would imagine if somebody has kids and stuff, they won't be getting the Malinois because they chew through walls and chew couches and stuff. Because they're really hyper. But that'd be they know what they're doing. Gary Haddon's he works for Ultimate Canine on the side. He's one of the top drug dog trainers in the world, in my opinion. So we're getting a good service. I did ask her about donated dogs, and she was a little hesitant about that. She said because she has a standard that she sets for the ball drive of the dogs, and she said I would be willing to test it, but I would rather just use what we have. If I can get two guys through the handler school, you have to do the handler school first, just learning basic stuff with the dogs, and then one will go early spring and one will go late spring. And so the deal was on that, and I talk. I've never kept it a secret that I'm not big on getting a bite dog at this point because of the liability for the town. So, but she did say that once we get the officers handling the dogs, we see how they do with the drug dog part of it. If they look like they're doing well with the dog, that we can always imprint the tracking and aggression on the dog later. Or we can just do tracking with no aggression, which I'm okay with that too.
I like the idea that the trainer helps match the officer to the dog rather than just picking your buddy at the police department that wants to do it.
That totally takes out the good old boy backslapping system, which I don't know these kids very well anyway, but I think that they've trained enough police officers in the state and outside of the state, and they actually just got back from Europe training dogs in Europe, that they know what personality is best for that dog. So I'm gonna default to whatever they have to say about it.
I thank you for the joint cooperation with the other departments on the task force too. I think that's a good gesture and smart.
Well, I think it's going to be beneficial for us.
Oh yeah.
And anytime you get the feds involved, they got deep pockets. So, unless you have anything for me, yeah. You got anything for me? If not, appreciate it. Thanks.
Legal counsel.
Nothing for you.
Public comments? Anyone have anything to say for the good of the town? Motion for approval of payment of claims.
Motion for approval of claims in the amount of $526,302.53.
Was it cents?
53 cents.
53.
Yeah.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Great, Josh. 5-0. Now we need approval for approval of payroll clearing.
To approve the payable vouchers in the amount of $180,200.74.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Greg, Jeff, 5-0. Town council comments.
I have none.
Okay.
Just thanks to all the applicants for board positions. To those that didn't get it this time, I just say keep trying. I appreciate anybody who wants to apply for those. And I think we had a lot of good applicants, so I wanted to thank those people.
Josh?
I'd like to second that. Thanks for everybody applying, and keep applying because we always need people. And I want to wish Chris the best of luck in her new adventure. Thanks for everything.
I hope nobody minds I wore Bulldog colors tonight.
Oh, man.
My grandson it's his last seventh grade game tonight, so I told him I would support him by wearing the colors. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't, mention the fact that Paul Mason, passed away Friday. Longtime Mooresville resident, businessman, still actually had a Mooresville address clear out there in Monrovia. Probably one of the best public servants and representative of Morgan County there ever was. He was just a fine man. I was privileged to know him ever since I was little. That's all I got.
We will have a council meeting on January 31st. It is a special call meeting. The only item that will be on the agenda is the
Hearing on the super voluntary annexation.
annexation. We're going to do it here, again, January 31st. So I need a motion or a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Greg Shane, 5-0.
Okay.
Be careful.